Like and subscribe right now, or else this will be in your bed tonight. r/AskReddit by Planet Reddit. Teachers who matched with one of their students on Tinder. What's your story? I unmatched with them as soon as I realized who it was. We still had a month left in the semester, and she never brought it up. I teach in higher ed, so it's legal, but definitely not worth the headaches and professional fallout it could potentially cause. One thing some people don't realize is that legal equals ethical or professional. It might absolutely be legal to hook up with someone, but two consenting parties in any situation someone could call into question a power dynamic is just flat out bad news for multiple reasons. I've seen several people tank their careers, or leave a huge black mark on it, by playing this game and losing. This is pretty much spot on. I went to college at 27, and was older than 90% of the students. I think it was WR 121. The professor wasn't much older than me, and we got along well. At some point during the semester I needed some leeway in an assignment due date. Being a single dad and working full time was stressful, and my time management was screwed up for a couple weeks. And she was fine with it. When I turned the assignment, and she was really cool about it, and we joked, and she understood my situation as a total joke, not in a flirty way or anything, which she knew. I said, man, I should buy you a beer as a thank you or something to that effect. She said there's no way in hell she could do that with a current student and not be totally ducked career wise. It just wasn't worth the risk for allegations of any misconduct. My roommate unknowingly matched with a guy who had just graduated from the school where I taught. It was a kind of funny passing comment of, oh, I matched with a guy who graduated from X school. We both assumed that it wouldn't be one of my students because I taught sophomores for the most part, and this kid was a graduated senior. So we figured it was a funny coincidence rather than weird. She invited him over to our place to hang out. He walked in and introduced himself before he and my roommate went to hang out in her room and watch a movie. I had to text my roommate that the kid had obviously lied about something because A, he was current senior, not a graduated one, and B, I'd had him as a student in my newspaper class. Turned out he lied about his age, said he was 19, and pretended that he didn't know me despite the fact he had class with me. Nice kid. But he never got invited around again. Lied about his age and pretended he didn't know you. Nice kid. I fear it may have been an act. Hell of a prank, lol. I matched with one of my online professors last semester. He has a unique name, and once I realized who he was I unmatched. Even if it's legal, and at our ages, it would be. It's still a small town and I didn't want to bring the drama on us. Online but local, living in the same town. I'm enrolled at a community college, but some of my classes are online only. Some are hybrid, and some are classroom. The professor is actually a really great human. I once drunk splurged on Tinder Gold, or whatever the duck it's called, and noticed my current intern had swiped right on me. Yeah. I had to ignore that one for a while. All the while keeping that secret for the rest of semester. Some people swipe fast without pausing long on the pictures. When I was single Tinder hunting, that's exactly what I did. Swipe right on everyone. And only look at profile if I match. I unmatched us as soon as the notification came in and realized who it was. Like clockwork. I'm a resident and I've matched with a few medical students. But so far none of them have been under me in their rotations. Are we still doing phrasing? Holy shit snacks, you know we are. Not Tinder, but teacher related. I had a friend who was up for anything. Flirted with everyone. Hooked up with anyone. Give him a dare and he'd do it before you finish talking. Full of crazy ideas and no limits. Any girl could walk up to him and kiss him out if the blue and he'd be on board immediately. Lots of fun, and we all assumed there would be nothing he'd say no to. Until one night we all walked into a bar in our early 20s and a girl danced up to him for some close quarters work. Without a pause he immediately turned around. Handed his full drink to a stranger. Said we're leaving and walked out without turning around to see if we were behind him. After about half a block of fast walking he told us she had been a student of his last year and still attended his school. He teaches grade 10 math. Even though drinking age is only 19 here, she obviously got in with fake ID. One of the group made a joke about him getting so freaked out BC he must have been in trouble for hooking up with a student before. And the lecture he rounded on him about taking advantage of kids sexually when you're in a position of authority made it clear that he wasn't scared of repercussions. It was his limit. The one thing he wouldn't do. Ever. The world would be in a better place if more people in authority shared your friend's viewpoint. When you described your friend as being up for anything, I thought he was going to be the student in this scenario. Oh damn. This just happened to a regular at my local. We are there having drinks. As we often do. And he starts telling me that he matched with his 8th grade English teacher. Who was 24 when he was 13. Not a crazy age difference. So they chatted and laughed about the coincidence and how weird it was. But they ended up talking 4 hours about life. How they are both divorced. Decided what the hell and agreed to meet. At our bar. That night. She was there like an hour later. She seemed super fun and looked great for 46. They sat next to me and my wife and we all had fun talking, but then they moved to a booth to be alone. 90 minutes and good amount of shots later. They are kissing in the booth. About 10 minutes later. They are paying their tab and ordering a car to the nearest bedroom. It's been about 3 weeks and they are still hanging out. They really like each other. It's kinda creepy but sweet. He seems happier than usual. And I feel like she gets a pass. It was 20ish years ago. I'm sure they barely remember each other. And it's not like they had been interacting since. He's essentially someone who bears a passing resemblance to a student she once taught. Given how much changes from 13-35ish. If he's happy and she's happy, I say let him have it. Same. We are telling him all the time that she's great and to see where it goes. And yeah. 20 years is a very long time. Clean slate. But still. How did you meet? Will always be an interesting tale. Way before Tinder. We had a HS teacher. An way older male who taught math. Have an affair with a female student. She was a senior that turned 18 at the end of the school year, but they had been together over a year. He and his wife divorced. And he married the 18-year-old. He was allowed to keep teaching, and when she graduated college she was hired as a teacher in the same school in his department. Of course this was in the late 1970s and I graduated in 1982. But I had them both as teachers. Something similar happened at my sister's school 10ish years ago. Jim's soccer coach married one of his high school seniors. I'm pretty sure they're still together and didn't start officially dating until she was 18. But still insanely creepy. In my high school, I was cool with a band teacher who once made a comment about another student being really hot when she passed by. Never thought it was weird until I was an adult. My youngest brother, 24, matched up with a seemingly nice girl on Tinder. They started dating afterwards. She was a probation officer for the county and had been doing it for a few years. My brother was and is currently on probation for arson. They were together for about 6 months when they came to dinner at my place. During which I asked her about her job. She told me she is a probation officer. I then asked her if them being together is a problem since he is on probation. She froze for a good minute. Then said she didn't know that he was on probation. The rest of dinner was awkward. Couple weeks later, when talking to my brother, he told me that she decided to stay with him. Even though it was against the rules for her job. I guess she was hoping they would never find out. But they did less than a week later. She got fired and will probably never work in that field again. My brother broke up with her the next month. He had the nerve to tell me that he broke up with her because she was being lazy, had no money, and was depressed a lot. I told him he was a giant ducking scumbag. I don't think he even understood why she was depressed. He did not feel bad at all and didn't think he was to blame. Even a little bit. He is a big piece of shit. Oh wow. That's awful all the way around. What a terrible thing for him to do to someone. I matched with a teacher when I was 27 and she was 76. She said I knew you'd make it at least this far, then unmatched me. Edit. This blew up, and for anyone wondering, I found out it was a prank that my friend and my brother was pulling on me. And most of you are right. My brother changed my age range, which I didn't know was possible, to only 55 plus, and they made an account, the teacher account. Sorry to disappoint, but yeah. Hold up. 76. You have your age range open that wide? I've got wider things, Ickno. This story comes from pre-Tinder days. But I'm the product of a student and her second year maths lecturer. Student and lecturer ended up getting married, starting a family and growing old together. But there was some serious fallout. Lecturer's supervisor decided student was a harlot and tried to manipulate the entire maths department into flunking her. When nobody would comply, he kept trying until the day she had to call in sick for her final honors exam. She verbally told supervisor she was in hospital and unable to attend. Supervisor said it was fine and she could make it up when she was well. The next week she rocked up, ready to take the exam, only to be told she'd flunked and there was no second chance to sit the exam. He denied all knowledge of the conversation. Student still managed second class honors. Despite all this, some people just have too much time on their hands. Who has time to be that petty? So kinda not really what you're asking for, but never had the chance to tell this story. So, when I was 12 years old, my English teacher had a medical emergency and was out for 4 months. We had a long-term sub. His name, no joke, was Mr. Love. And he was gorgeous. Maybe 25. Built, creamy dark skin, a voice like an angel. And he cared about every single student he had. He was the epitome of every middle school girl's hormonal fantasy. 10 years later I'm on the bus going to work. I'm in a committed relationship and pregnant but not showing yet. Who gets on the bus? Mr. Love. The only empty seat is next to me. So he takes it. We ride in silence for a moment. But before I can figure out how to break the ice he turns to me and starts working his, still apparent, charm. I've never seen you here before. Do you go this way often? You're a very beautiful woman to be traveling on your own. You know, I'd love to take you out for coffee sometime. At that point, I couldn't stop myself. I said, did you sub for an English class 10 years ago? Because if your name is Mr. Love, I was one of your students. I thought you were so attractive back then. He balked at that and got off the bus at the next stop. He said who off? Not me, but one of the teachers at the high school I work at matched with one of his students on Grindr. The kid was 16. Teacher came and told us, the school counselors. And we had to sit the kid down and have a conversation about the dangers of lying about his age to have random hookups with older men. He said he had been doing it a while and appreciated that we were concerned about him. He said he did not plan on stopping. But he was obviously not trying to hook up with anyone from the school. The teacher felt so awkward having the kid in his class the rest of the year. I think he maybe wanted to try and mentor the kid a bit to help him stay safe in the cruising scene. But that could get ugly really fast if the parents found out. He graduated and went to uni. So hopefully he is doing okay still. Penthouse letters from my youth. I thought all these letters were scripted lies until it happened to me. Just so I'm sure I'm reading these stories correctly. Swipe right equals keep, swipe left equals toss. Both swipe right equals match 1 or both swipe left equals no match. I went on a date a couple weeks ago with a former student. I was an adjunct prof and she was in my class. I thought she was cute and I had a suspicion she was queer too, but obviously wasn't going to do anything while I was teaching. When she came up on Tinder, I'm no longer teaching university. I swiped right and we matched. She is only a couple years younger than me though and the class was a couple years ago. We're hopefully going out again soon and we'll see what happens. I mean, hey, it kinda makes sense, I say go at it. Bring your cat. When I read this title, my brain played the SVU dun dun noise at the end. Didn't match. But I saw one of my students on Tinder saying they were 20 when they most definitely were not. I informed the parents that I'd received an anonymous tip that either they were on Tinder or someone was using their photos. Not the story most people are looking for here, I'm sure. But the right thing to do. Yo, I couldn't masturbate at all to this one. Not in Tinder. But I downloaded Grindr and set up an account. When I first activated it, I didn't have any age restrictions set up. All of a sudden, I see one of my students. I teach middle school. He was in 8th grade. I called the principal and counselor and made them deal with it. I'm all for keeping kids safe, but that little ducker was lying about his age. Probably could pass for an 18-year-old twink, and some moron would have, or probably had, slept with him. Don't want to come out to your parents? Too bad. Don't advertise your 14-year-old body on a dating app. You did the right thing. I hope you got the support you needed to handle it from your administration. Nice try. PTA. Not this biscuit. School district. Ain't causing me distress. CPS. Awkward at first. But once I got over the fact I was homeschooled, we went back to our place for extra credit. Sorry about the broken arms. I teach university. A year or so after the end of the class she took under me, she pops up and laughed. I thought there'd be no way she yesed me, so I swiped right for giggles. Instant match. I couldn't believe it. Turns out she wanted to hook up the whole time but didn't want to open that can of worms. We went on a date. And she was by far the worst duck of my life. Animal in bed? Oh yeah. Starfish. Next time you end up with a starfish, flip her on top. Duck wasting energy on someone who doesn't reciprocate. Make them put in some work. Starfish? You guys are getting matches? Duck, yeah dude. Got a whole person last year. I got 6 numbers last night. 1 more. And it would have been a whole phone number. In my district, one of the teachers revealed to his students that he was on Tinder. The students made up a profile, catfished him, and made him believe he was talking to another adult. Then he sent them dong pics which they showed to everyone. Technically, the teacher did nothing wrong because he thought he was communicating with another adult. He is still teaching, but I'm not sure how that works when all of your students have seen your dong. We homeschool, so my wife says it's never been an experience, much less a problem. But one of her students' father keeps trying to sleep with her and it's getting irksome. You read about them in the newspaper later probably. Here's a fun story I don't share often. When I was in 6th grade, I had a pretty eccentric teacher who was kind of good looking by teacher standards. She really liked me. Nothing weird happened. But she really took a liking to me because I was kind of an odd kid. I was a super sweet kid, but odd. When I was 21, I went to this bar called Charlie's. It was one of the first few times I'd been into a bar. I was with one of my buddies. I saw her sitting at the bar with a gentleman that looked a little older than her. She didn't look like she was enjoying the date. She was wearing this red dress and was all made up, looking really good. I walked up at an opportune time. Dude went to the bathroom and said hi. Her eyes lit up, she was so happy to see me. She hugged me and I sat where he was sitting. He came back and she barely acknowledged him. After a while he made an excuse to leave. He got the point. Long story short, my 6th grade teacher got the point too that night. The point of my dong, genuinely sorry for that. As someone who is actively on Tinder and who works in high schools, it's frightening how often you'll see someone's profile with the age set at mid-20s. But the first line of the profile is actually 16 or something. I have my age filters set to 25-37. Students in high school will set their birth date to something wrong to get around that because there's so many, mostly ugly, girls who want a sugar daddy and are not afraid to put that in writing. As mentioned above with the first line of profile text, the second line is usually looking for something really sweet or similar. Then finally, 16 photos of bikinis and lingerie. I report every one of them. And if I'm at a school and see the student, I report them to Student Services, the main office. That's kinda horrifying to think about. I really hope that's not as common as your comment would imply. I'm also thinking about how parents these days have so much more coaching to do in terms of safety and privacy. It's fairly common. Unfortunately, I can think of 3 students off the top of my head who've, independently, told me they go on Tinder to sell foot pics. Oh. Not my teacher. But I matched with a middle school teacher when I was 18. He was hot and about 28. I quickly find out he's dominant. Score. Now we are really talking. He confides in me his favorite kink. Schoolgirl. What the duck? Immediate unmatch. I'm not sure if this counts since I'm not a school teacher. But here's my story anyways. I am a health and safety instructor and work with a number of organizations teaching them. Well, health and safety. I'm teaching at this one location and one of my students and I really hit it off. About a month or so passes and I receive a message from her on Tinder. She asks me if I remember her and I'm thinking to myself, no shit. I had to spend 16 hours pretending not to notice my giant crush on you and actively try to not flirt. So yes, I definitely remembered her. Now it should be noted that I am gay and definitely not out at work, and B, I actively try to keep my personal life to myself. Especially to my students. Part of me is freaking out thinking I've literally just been outed and I don't know how to react, so I did the only thing I could think of and said maybe we shouldn't do anything until we figure out what the protocol was. Like, since I'm technically not her teacher anymore, would that still be a conflict of interest? Am I allowed to actually go out with her? Well, we end up going on a date and 6 months later, we're still together. Oh. And she no longer works at that company. So no harm. No foul. She got an A. Then the D. Both got jail time. I matched with my financial aid advisor on a Cupid my freshman year of college. He was also still a student, but already had his bachelor's and was basically just taking classes because they were so cheap for him as an employee. He said. He ended up being the worst person I've literally ever met. Lol. After dating for 6 months we broke up but were on decent terms, so continued to hang out and hook up regularly. Eventually I found out he had a girlfriend during this time and had also had a baby with another girl during the time we were dating that he never told me about. So I was pretty pissed but basically decided to write him off and move on with my life because I was 19 and duck being some white trash dude's second choice stepmommy for his accidental duck trophy. Yeah, no? This dude went duck in NUCLEAR. He stalked me and threatened to kill me and my family, so I had to get a restraining order against him and he lost his job over it. 2 years later, through a series of super unfortunate events, he assaulted me and attempted to choke me to death. He was ultimately prosecuted but it took over a year and he basically got a slap on the wrist. It's been 5 years since then and he still contacts the few mutual friends we still have every few months to tell them that I've slashed the tires on his car or done something to deface his house or something equally ridiculous. I've been married for 4 years and moved to another state over 1,200 miles away 3 years ago. So yeah, that was like a super lame time. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for 3 videos a day.